But we are now going out. We're talking about Derek Carr. Okay, look, Derek Carr got a tepid at best. Okay, tepid at best.
It felt a little warmer than that.
I don't think so. Endorsement from Mike Mayock and John Gruden at the beginning of the combine. That same day, our good friend and someone we've had on the show here a lot, someone that you should follow on Twitter, Benjamin Allbright, who is not only a member of the Pro Football Network, contributor there, but also the host of Broncos Country Tonight on KOA in Denver and an NFL insider. Benjamin reported that, look, the Raiders are actively shopping. He had put sources tell him that they were actively shopping Carr, or at least having conversations at the combine. Then we bring in Benjamin Allbright. Now, Benjamin, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing? You holding up all right after this long week?
I'm doing all right. I must have been on a plane with you because now I'm
I apologize, man. It's not coronavirus though, so at least you're good there.
That's that lovely Indiana weather, man.
You know,
I moved away from that stuff.
That's right. Shovel. Although Benjamin lives in Denver, he knows some real snow. But anyway, Benjamin. Okay, so you created a bit of a stir because you have Mike Mayock come out. Which was, to me, no surprise. Who's going to go out there and say, listen, we like Derek Carr, but we're not happy with his performance. We don't think he's going to take us to the promised land, so we're looking for a quarterback. Call me at 1-800-TRADE-QB if you want a quarterback. He, of course, goes out, talks about Derek Carr and his positives, and says that they weren't actively shopping. But you have sources who've told you that might be the opposite. Tell us a little bit about what you know and, of course, without revealing them, what these folks have been telling you about the Raiders and Derek Carr.
Well, there's kind of an understanding here. The Raiders, they could roll into next season with Carr, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to ascertain what they can get for him on the market. I know of two teams they have specifically spoken with and asked, what would you be willing to part with if we were to move Derek Carr? And so, I don't think that I don't think it's a situation where it's a fire sale, but I think what it is, the Raiders realize what they have in Carr and what they don't have in Carr, and they're looking to upgrade the position. They're looking to upgrade the talent across the board. And so, they're out there thinking, well, this might be the draft where we get a rookie quarterback, and what we can do is we can bring in a veteran, to kind of bridge the gap, and that would hold us over until that rookie is ready. You've got 4 quarterbacks, I think, in this draft that people view as potential starters in the league, and then some project guys after that. Raiders have, a couple of picks there, in the teens. I think one of those quarterbacks might be there in that slot. So, you've got some options. You start to look around and you say, okay, well, what if we brought in a Teddy Bridgewater or drafted a Jordan Love? What if we, brought in a Case Keenum and moved up and drafted a Justin Herbert? Or you start to look around at what your options are and say, does this make us better? And I think good general managers and good coaches want to know the price tag and the value of the players that they have.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Benjamin Allbright, Pro Football Network and KOA Radio out of Denver. And Benjamin, that's the thing too. I always, I was saying earlier in the show before we got on the phone with you that I don't know that I've seen in covering football and being around sports a more polarizing discussion amongst a fan base. I've not seen it. It's almost like you're talking like the American political scene right now, but in football sense with Derek Carr. So you have a lot of people who love Derek. I know you've seen it because people are tweeting at you what an idiot you are for even suggesting that they're actually trying to trade him. So, but my question to you is this: what does the rest, when you talk to other league executives, which I know you talk to many, what do they think of Derek Carr? And is the upside of Derek Carr enough for a team like the Chicago Bears, who you've long talked about as maybe somebody who might be a good fit for him? What do they think of Derek Carr, and what does the league think of him overall?
Well, most people think that he's, somewhere between that 10th best and 20th best quarterback in the league. It depends on who you talk to. Some people are higher and have him very high. Some people are low and have him low. I think he's a scheme-fit quarterback, and it just depends on the scheme you're running. I don't think he's the best fit for John Gruden. That's not to say he hasn't played well at times under John, but I don't think that's his best fit. His best fit was when he was playing with Billy Musgrave as the offensive coordinator and was practically an MVP candidate. I think an offense that takes advantage of his ability to push the ball vertically is something that's going to be a little bit better fit for him. If you look at a team like, for instance, Tampa, I think he would excel in a Bruce Arians offense. So I think it just depends on who you talk to and what they run as far as what the opinion of him is. Nobody thinks he's a bad quarterback. Most people just think he's either a good quarterback, and some people think he's an above average quarterback. And so, I think that anybody who's telling me that I'm an idiot or whatever for, for reporting this stuff, these are the same people that were telling me that I was an idiot when I broke the Raiders were moving Khalil Mack. Like, look, guys, I'm not going to sit there and put my name on something I don't know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Benjamin, it's Kelly. First off, let me commend you on your form on the bench press at the Combine. I saw on your Twitter feed you were locking them arms out. That's what we like to see. And you mentioned that, actively shopping, we've talked about it, and you mentioned, and the Bears came up. I've always kind of jokingly said, would the Raiders take their second pick back for Derek Carr that they gave up in the Khalil Mack, or would the PR hit from that be too big to where it's now Carr and Mack for 2 first-round picks?
I don't know if they would or wouldn't. I would suggest that the price tag on Carr would be 2 second-rounders. I don't know, I don't think they worry about the PR hit as far as that goes. I think anytime you acquire a quarterback, the PR hit is offset by the fact that you acquired a quarterback, and fans are going to go nuts for the guy either way. The lone exception I would suggest would be perhaps here in Denver, where the Broncos acquired Joe Flacco, and the fans were like, but why?
Yep.
Again, we're talking to Benjamin Allbright. Benjamin is the host of Broncos Country Tonight, KOA, but also a nationally renowned football insider with Pro Football Network and covers the NFL. Benjamin, when you look at this situation with Derek Carr, you talked about maybe 2 second-round picks if they were to move on from him. But I think so much in the next 17 days, right, is going to determine maybe what happens with this situation, correct? Because you have to find out where the dominoes fall. The Raiders would have to get better at quarterback, and if you look at some of the other players out there, they're not necessarily the best fit for John Gruden either. Out of the veterans that are out there, of course, we've heard a lot about the Tom Brady story here in Las Vegas since it broke, and since the ultimate meeting at the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or at the boxing match, with Mark Davis and Tom Brady. But when you look at that, who might be the best fit here besides Tom Brady for the Raiders if they were to pull that trigger and move on from Derek Carr?
Well, you know how John loves his veteran quarterbacks. I would suggest that they would definitely be in the market for Teddy Bridgewater. That may or may not be inspiring. The Grudens have long loved Case Keenum, and while that name may not be inspiring, Case is a serviceable quarterback to get you to a rookie, and he can produce. We've seen him produce at times. He wasn't exactly brilliant with the Broncos, but he looked okay. It looks pretty good with the Vikings, in an offense that catered to his skill set. If you're willing to run the ball and work off of boot action, he can win you football games. And I think that Gruden's offense kind of maximized his skill set. If you go back and look at John's greatest successes, it's when he had veterans who sometimes had limited skill sets but were accurate and able to work within the confines of the system. You go back and look at Rich Gannon, which you guys are going to be obviously familiar with. You go back and look at Jeff Garcia. You go back and look at Brad Johnson, guys like that who were just playing within the confines of what he was able to do, and they took the team to new heights with great players around them.
Well, you mentioned Case Keenum and the serviceable quarterback. I mean, that's just not going to excite anybody out here. Well, no, I mean, seriously, because everybody's going to be like, why would you go from Carr to Keenum when they're basically the same player? Do you really think that's a legitimate option, or is that just kind of something that, would seem to fit with Gruden?
I think it's a very legitimate option. John explored acquiring Case Keenum a while back. Ultimately, Jay ended up getting him, but I think that it could be. I understand the lack of excitement on that, but you got to remember that if you're bringing in Case Keenum, you're not just bringing in Case Keenum. You're bringing Case to be the bridge to something else, and what that something else would be the exciting piece.
Yeah, and again, talking to Benjamin Allbright, Pro Football Insider and radio host at KOA in Denver, Pro Football Network. Benjamin, the other thing, I want to close with you just a little bit on the Combine in general. I know the format changed. We've heard a lot of griping from team personnel and from executives and whatnot about the new format. Not so bad for the media, of course, but what's been your overall impression of the Combine and where it went this year versus how it's been in the past?
Oh, it was terrible for the media. It was terrible for everybody. Everybody hates it. The agents and players hate it because it puts the players at risk for soft tissue injury, and we saw some of that. The agents hate it because there's not enough time to rehuddle or reset with the coaches and front office guys after the events like there used to be. Front office guys hate it because their schedules are all crammed into quick days where they don't have any time off. Media guys hate it because they don't have any time afterwards to go hang out with these guys and kind of get additional information. About the only people that liked it were the league, who saw about a 119% increase, I think, in viewership. Although,
Right.
to be fair, the total raw viewership data from the Thursday night primetime thing was less than Week 3 Alliance of American Football games. So, I don't know that the move to primetime was a good idea. I don't know it was a good thing, and certainly everyone I talked to hated it.
All right, Benjamin Allbright. Benjamin, before we let you go, gut feeling on what happens with the Raiders and the quarterback situation.
Oh, gut feeling. As it sits right now, I'm guessing they move on, and they bring in a free agent. They get a rookie. But I would say that it's close to 50-50. It's far from a done deal in that regard. But gut says they go that way.
All right, Benjamin Allbright. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you real soon. Safe travels home.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Cynthia Freeland. Cynthia.